Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Dixie Belle Paint fans. It is Melissa coming on to you live on the Dixie Belle Paint page from the Top Drawer RVA located in Richmond, Virginia. How are you today? Welcome. Thank you for joining me. It is Wednesday at 3 and this is my scheduled time to hop on and talk about all things Dixie Belle. I am Dixie Belle's newest brand ambassador and I am live here every Wednesday at 3 covering everything from prep to faux finish painting to whatever else comes on in between. But today I have kind of a basic video for you. We are going to go back to basics today and cover all things proper prep for painting, okay? Because sometimes all the crazy finishes and all the Mad Hatter things that happen and all these things that I do can't happen without all of the behind the scenes that you might not be able to see. So today we are going to cover everything that you need to know about proper prep for paint, all right? So welcome. Great, let's hop right on into it. So if I have my glasses on, I can see your comments. If I do not have them on, I am busy doing something over here, but I promise you by the end of the video, I will come back and answer all of your questions. So don't be afraid to ask questions in the comments and I will come back and answer them for you. All right? And let me know where you're watching from. Throw me some hearts and thumbs up and let me know we're ready to get started. Let's jump in, all right? All right, let's begin. First of all, what is proper prep? I'm sure you guys hear this all the time. Prep, prep, prep. I mean, it's like, it's the four-letter word that nobody wants to actually do. But you have to do it before you start painting. It's super, super important. If you know me, if you're a follower of my work, and I did tag my Facebook page above my head if you felt like coming over and joining my own Facebook page, but you know that I love an ugly duckling, and I love to save all of the things. I am the girl that will find things on the side of the road, salvage all the parts, keep them in the shed, and rebuild all of the stuff. It's just kind of what gets my mojo going. It keeps me happy to rebuild things and save everything, reduce, reuse, and recycle. So this little cabinet is not very pretty. It's not very pretty at all. This little cabinet, I'm like 99% sure that somebody might have handmade it at one point. Okay, so it is a ugly orange pine handmade cabinet. It's very square and it's just not pretty. So we're gonna prep it today to get it ready for paint and we are going to make it pretty. We're gonna talk about proper prep and would you bend. So let's jump in, shall we? All right. You can see here I've done a little bit of work. This is part of my demo. I'm going to start from the very beginning and we're going to walk through it step by step by step so that you know how to do this to get ready for paint. So what do you do first when we talk about proper prep? Well, initially every piece that comes home is inspected, okay? I open it up, I take off the hardware, I make sure all of the joints and everything are secure. Once I know my piece is structurally solid and ready to go, I am going to clean it. And I clean my pieces with White Lightning, okay? White Lightning is a powdered base formula. You can see the powder here inside this container, okay? White Lightning is a powdered base formula that you disperse into water, all right? I disperse mine into a recyclable little old spray bottle so that I can just keep using it and using it and using it. I keep this on hand in order to clean my projects. When you order your Dixie Belle Paint projects, you're gonna get a cute little welcome book, okay? You're gonna learn all about how to with Dixie Belle, all right? And if you were to open it up right there on the first page, the first thing you're gonna learn about is White Lightning Cleaner, all right? So White Lightning Cleaner is dispersed, it's a powder dispersed into water. How you choose to do that is up to you. You can put it in a bucket, you can use a rag, you can use a spray bottle, you can use paper towels. I've seen people actually take like a green scrubby and really super clean their piece. This is what's going to help prepare your piece for paint. It is also a deglosser. What is a deglosser? Well, it's going to take some of that shine off, but it's also going to remove all the dirts and the oils and the things that might make your paint not adhere properly to the piece, all right? So you can use this with gloves. I don't wear gloves technically. I think you're supposed to, but I don't like to follow the rules that much. I fly by the seat of my pants, jump in, get dirty, get messy, and clean all the things. So when you're using White Lightning, you're going to take 2 tablespoons of White Lightning into 1 gallon of hot water. I put hot water into my spray bottle and use that about spraying and cleaning my piece, all right? So once you've done that and you've dispersed your White Lightning into your little spray bottle and you're going to clean your piece, this is how I do it. Remember I told you this is a basic tutorial today. We're taking it back to basics, proper prep, because this is important business. So you can hear my White Lightning in the bottle. You're gonna spray your piece and you're going to clean it, all right? One of the things that sometimes happens with white lightning that catches people off guard is the fact that you do need to rinse it. Look, see that? We've cleaned this piece already today, twice. This is not dirt, this is tannins, and this is gonna take us to our next part of the project. Wait, we're not there yet, but I wanted to show you this. So I'm going to spray my piece, I'm going to clean my piece, I'm going to use paper towels, it's going to take off any oils, it's going to take off any grease, and it's going to leave you with a clean surface. You can see what's left of my paper towel. I have cleaned this piece 2-3 times today. This is still happening. This is a tannin. Tannins are in the wood. They will bleed through and stain your paint, which is why we're going to talk about Boss in a minute. After you're done your white lightning, what you're going to want to do is rinse it. This is a spray bottle filled with water. After I do that, I just make sure that all of my white lightning is removed from the piece. You want your piece to be dry before you move on to your next step. Dry and wiped back and rinsed after you apply your white lightning. Got it? Good. Any questions? Drop them in the comments. Dixie Belle is live with me here today, and they can help answer the comments as well. So that is proper prep step number 1. Use your white lightning, clean your surface, rinse it, wipe it, wait till dry before you start to paint. It's very, very important, okay? Great. What is my next step when I do a piece? Well, my next step is, obviously after I've removed my hardware, to fill in some holes. Well, how do I fill in my holes? Well, there's a lot of products out there that you can use to fill in your holes. Dixie Belle makes something called Dixie Belle Mud. Dixie Belle Mud, see that in there? Dixie Belle Mud comes in 3 colors. Comes in white, comes in brown, comes in black, okay? And then this is going to be your saver for all things cracks, trims, and holes, all right? This is what you're going to use to fill in your holes and get prepared for paint. There's a couple ways you can do this, all right? The way that I normally do this is with my finger. I stick my finger in here, I grab it, see it right there? It's like a thick icing. It's like a little paste. And FYI, keep this in the fridge. It's gonna keep it fresh, it's gonna keep it moist, it's not gonna get moldy, it'll be ready for you nice and fresh every time you need it. So keep it in the fridge, all right? You can take it and just put it directly into these holes. When you put it directly into these holes, I like to overfill a little bit. When I overfill, what that is going to allow me to do is when it's dry, sand back flat. If I smush it in and my area is concave, it's gonna dry concave, and I'm not gonna want that. I want it to be straight across, overfilled, so that when I sand it back, it goes back to flat. So if you don't wanna use your finger, you can also do it this way, but you can take a little spatula. They actually sell these too at Dixie Belle. This is a little plastic spatula. You could just stick it right in there if you want. You can take your spatula and do the same thing. If you wanna push it across, making sure it's just stuck in those holes, that's another way for you to fill the holes. Spatula, finger, it all works the same at the end of the day. It's entirely up to you. I use my Dixie Belle Mud for everything. For filling holes, for fixing cracks, for making raised stencils. It goes and goes and goes. I don't use the whole jar for like months and months and months. It lasts forever. So if you haven't tried this, this is another necessity that you need in your toolbox. Do we have any questions about Dixie Belle's Mud? Well, I have you here and you want to learn. All right, you can choose the color. This is paintable, this is stainable. When it's dry, you're not really gonna see it. What I do not recommend is doing this before you clean, because it is going to get reactivated with water. You want to do this after you have cleaned your piece. So number 1, white lightning. Number 2, Dixie Belle Mud. You ready? I'm gonna show you how to get this off and sand it back to flat. So over here on this piece, I did cover 2 other holes. I did these this morning. So this is dry. This is my Dixie Belle Mud that I just showed you how to do up here on this little drawer, but this down here is dry. Well, how do you get it back to flat? How do you sand it back? Regular piece of sandpaper. This is nothing fancy. This grit is 150. It's like a medium sandpaper. All you're gonna do is rub it. You can see it. It's almost like a little powder happens, okay? So gently, gently rubbing it back. Now, this is flat to the surface. When I paint over top of this, you're not gonna see these little tiny holes. This is going to disappear and you're going to be ready to drill new holes, which I'm going to do on this piece, when you're ready for that part of the project, okay? So number 1, clean with Dixie Belle's White Lightning. White back, make sure you've rinsed it. Number 2, go in with your mud, fill any holes, fix any damages. Make sure that your piece is ready for paint the proper way. FYI, this piece, this ugly little square piece, at some point I'm going to add a new farmhouse top to it on plank wood. If you want to see me do that, come over to my own Facebook page. I linked it above my head. I'll be doing that at another time to kind of give this table a little bit more balance, because right now it's really square and really ugly. We don't like that. So let's move along. So after I have cleaned my piece, filled my holes, sanded them back, you're ready for your next step. Well, what's the next step on this little ugly duckling for me? The next step for this little ugly duckling is would you bend? Have you heard about would you bend? Would you bends are moldings that are bendable, stainable moldings. This would you bend molding is called 1009, all right? I have 2 of them. Would you bend moldings, you can do the same thing to them that you can do to wood. I will be drilling right through this little hole right here and putting new hardware in. See this? We're gonna do this today. So I'm gonna show you how to adhere your would you bend to the piece. Then we're gonna move along and talk about all things boss, all right? So would you bend has over 3,000 designs available. It is a molding that you are able to heat up. And when you heat it up, it becomes malleable and movable, and you can curve it around surfaces. You can put it on corners. You can put it in big rolls of trim. It's like the jewelry for your piece. So this ugly duckling today is gonna get some jewelry. We're gonna fix her up and make her pretty. All right, so would you bend is actually going to be Dixie Belle is gonna be carrying Would You Bend's 30 exclusive designs that are actually on their way over right now from overseas. They're in transit, and Dixie Belle will be restocking them like ASAP. And you better check and you better jump on, because they are exclusive designs that you are not gonna be able to get anywhere else other than Dixie Belle. It's really cool. So you can get all sorts of different things. You can get gears, flowers, trims. I mean, honestly, I don't think that there's anything that they don't make. There's a ton on there. It's amazing. They are amazing. Would you bends are my favorite. So I'm going to show you how to adhere your would you bend to the piece. All right, so my piece has been cleaned and rinsed. I'm ready for would you bend. The tools that you're going to need today for would you bend are a heat gun and or a hair dryer, wood glue, as well as tape. Well, why do I have tape? Because I'm a safety girl and I want to tape them up. As soon as they're on there and you're heating them up, they're usually good to go for painting. But because this is a vertical surface, I just want to tape them on because I'm working with 2 and I want to make sure they're even Steven. All right, so would you bends, glue, heat gun. Ready to go? I'm going to show you how to do this. All right, am I missing any questions? I have my glasses on. All right, it is the jewelry. I should have trademarked that. I've been calling it that for months and months. So these would you bends arrive like this. See them? They're nice and flat. They're hard, but when you heat them up, they become bendy. All right, so if your would you bend is not flat already, which majority of everything is not flat, you're going to want to heat it up. No matter if you think this is flat, no matter if you think this is flat, heat it up just to be sure, and then we're going to stick it on your piece. All right, you can use a microwave. No, you cannot use a microwave. Microwaves are going to heat up your items from the inside out, and you don't want that. You want to even heat onto the back surface of your would you bend. You can use a pancake griddle. You can use a hair dryer. You can use a hot heat gun, which we're going to use today. All right, so can you see down here? I think you can see my little feet sitting on the floor, my bare feet like usual, playing with paint. We are going to use the heat gun, and we're going to heat up the back of this would you bend molding. It doesn't take long, just a few minutes over here. We're just heating it up. After I heat it up, I'm going to apply my wood glue, and then I'm going to stick it directly on this drawer. We're going to put one here and one here. And then after it dries and I'm finished painting my piece, I'm going to be able to drill right through it and make it a beautiful backing for my new hardware that I'm going to stick on this piece. All right, so here you go. So here's that would you bend. Can you see it bendy now? Bendy moldings, would you bend? Okay, I'm going to take my wood glue, which is just your regular type on wood glue. You can actually purchase this as well on your Dixie Belle Paint page, linked above your head, or you can use any wood glue that you find at your local retailer. All right, so I've made sure that it's all on there. It's not a ton of glue on there, just like a medium amount. I'm just going to kind of spread it out. I usually have a paintbrush on the floor that I throw away, and I'm going to stick it on my piece. So I'm going to look at my piece, I know I marked my areas before I came on so that I would remember where it's going to go. I'm going to put it here. If there's any glue that's excess, you can either wipe it off or just paint over top of it. It won't make a diff. I'm going to tape it to my surface and I'm going to heat it again. Well, why am I going to heat it again? I'm going to heat it again just to make sure that it's stuck and flat to the piece. I want to make sure that it's stuck on there as good as it needs to be. All right, again with the heat gun. Not long, just like a minute, a quick minute. Dixie Belle already sells Would You Bend? Yes, ma'am. I see your questions up there. It's under Tools on the web page. If you go over and check it out under Tools, you're going to see all the designs that they carry. I know that some of them are sold out at the moment, but stay tuned because they are being sent. Would You Bends are made over in the United Kingdom, so they do have to come a little bit of a long way, hop and a skip over the pond to get over here and be redistributed within the United States. So hold tight because there's 30 designs coming just to Dixie Belle. You won't be able to get them anywhere else. And I use this on everything. Everything. It's the best way, you guys, to dress up a piece, especially those rolls of trim that you get. Oh my gosh, they save the day for me so often, so often. All right, so I've heated up the back of my second Would You Bend. You can see now that the second one is bendable and pliable. I'm going to take my Type Bond wood glue. I'm just going to hit the back of it, not a ton, just a little bit, making sure I'm touching all those edges. All right, and I'm going to line it up. Excuse the back of my head. I want to make sure that I'm getting it exactly where it needs to go. Because when I showed you guys how to clean your piece with White Lightning, I washed off my pen. Go figure. So I'm just making sure that I'm getting it like somewhat even on here. And I'm going to take the tape off so I can see both. That is fine by me. That is fine by me. Let's tape it on here. Remember, we're going to heat it up again just to ensure that your piece is flat to the surface. Just making sure. So once you put this Would You Bend on, you're good to go. Y'all, you can paint right over top of it right now if you wanted to. But we're gonna move on to Boss and we're gonna still talk about prep. This is like your homework video. This is like a video you have to watch to learn all about proper prep. Because if you're not doing the proper prep, you're not gonna go anywhere when it comes to paint. You don't wanna have accidents, you wanna have good things happen. All right, let's put you back up here. Here we go. So glasses are going back on. I'm going to do a double check here. Perfection. So here's what's going to happen. I'm actually going to take this drawer out because I cannot paint over top of this or boss over top of this until it is dry. Because I just did this a few minutes ago and showed you how to do this. It's going to take a couple hours to dry. You can actually heat it up with your heat gun if you wanted to, but I don't need to. We're going to move on to the rest of the area and we're going to continue learning about proper prep. So there you go. Now you've learned about how to apply your Would You Bend, how to clean your piece, and how to use Dixie Belle's mud. Good? Clear as mud? But it is. It's a needed tutorial. So we're going back to basics today. Let me move it out of the way and we're going to move on for the rest of our video. All right, so this is being sanded back and cleaned. Remember, we cleaned it with White Lightning. We wiped it back. I'm just going to make sure there's no dust and dirt on this piece. And we're going to talk about moving on to Boss, okay? So here you go. You ready? Great. Let's keep going. So Boss. What is Boss and why am I going to use it on this piece? Well, you saw me wiping this piece. I just got glue on me. You saw me wiping this piece, and you saw the tannins that were coming off of this piece. Remember this junk that I got off of the piece that I've already cleaned twice, 3 times today? This isn't dirt. This is bleed through. This is tannins, and this is what's going to happen to your piece if you were to just slap your paint on here, go ahead and do your clear coat. All of this yuckiness is going to come through the paint and it could cause stains. You don't want to do that. Why paint and do all the hard work just to have it ruined at the end when you thought you were finished, because then you're going to cry. So you want to take the extra few minutes to do this proper prep, okay? So this piece, I know because of its orange colored wood, because of those tannins on the tissue after I've washed it multiple times, it's going to need a stain blocker. All right, well, what is Boss? If you look into your little handy dandy how-to book that you're gonna get when you order any product from Dixie Belle, you're gonna find a little bit about Boss. Boss is a water-based primer, okay? Let me see if I can find it in here and show it to you. There it is, right there. So what is Boss gonna do? Boss is your blocking odors, stains, and stops bleed through. I have used Clear Boss on the inside, outside, and back of pieces that have had horrible smells. Pieces that you were just like, this is too stinky, it's gotta go in the garbage. I have used Clear Boss on the entire piece and those smells are gone. They just stop. They don't keep coming through the piece when you prepare your piece properly. So keep that in mind if you get a stinky piece, because y'all, you're gonna get stinky pieces. It's like, it happens. When you flip furniture, there's gonna be stinky pieces all the time. Dirty, stinky, yucky pieces, and we gotta bring them back. So this is going to be bossed today. Boss comes in two colors, clear and white. This little problem solver, okay, this eliminator for stains and smells and all the bad things that you don't want, it's gonna block, like if you had a marker, sometimes kids get like a Sharpie out and draw on things and you can't get the Sharpie off, and every time you put your paint over top of it, that Sharpie keeps coming through. This is gonna stop that problem. It's your stain blocking product. You're going to wanna apply it on one coat wherever you want the stain blocking to happen. You're going to wait until that's dry. You're going to apply another coat and wait until that's dry. You then will wait at least 1 hour before you use your chalk mineral paint on your project. You wanna make sure that your prep is being done properly. You've cleaned your piece with White Lightning. You don't wanna put this over a piece that's dirty. You always need to use White Lightning first, okay? So then you're gonna come in and use your Boss. So today, what do I wanna do? Well, you have a couple options, okay? This is a little bit shiny, but not terribly shiny. If it was any shinier than it is, or if this was a plastic surface, I would use Slick Stick to make sure that my paint is going to bond and adhere properly to the piece. But I know it's not. This is just a wood with a tiny bit of a shine. I've deglossed it. It's okay. We've cleaned it. I feel safe painting this without Slick Stick. So Slick Stick is a different product that you would use if your project was plastic or shiny or like a metal, anything that you were worried your paint is going to not stick to. This is when you would use your Slick Stick. So I just wanted to have this here. I'm not using it today, but I just wanted to have it in case anybody had any questions. All right. So with my two options of Slick Stick, I have got, let's see, Kathy, I hear you. Listen, this is your toolbox. These are the things that you need to have to achieve any kind of paint finish. I don't care if you're a pro painter or if you're a beginner painter or you've never painted anything before. If somebody doesn't teach you these initial tools to get a desired effect, it's just not going to happen. So now this is all the stuff that you need to just add to your toolbox. Clickety-click and put them in there, because you will use them. Might not be today, might not be tomorrow, but you're gonna use them someday. Trust me, trust me. All right, so you have your two colors. You have your clear and your white. I know that this doesn't look clear in the case. This is the Dixie Belle's Boss in clear. It kind of looks a little muddy, but when you open it up, and actually if you want me to, I can show you both. When you open it up and you apply it to your piece, what's gonna happen is it's going to be a clear coat, okay? So let me just show you with the brush. See that? It doesn't look like it's clear, but it's clear, and it dries clear. You would use this under darker paints. Because I don't want to fight with any white coming through, I would want to make sure that my Slick Stick was clear if I was using dark paints. This piece, I honestly haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but I know it's going to be a lot of fun. Just to be safe, I am probably going to stick to my Dixie Belle Boss in white. All right, so here you go. Dixie Belle Boss in white is white. What I'm going to do today is just show you how you can apply this over top of any project to make sure that you're preparing your surface for paint. Does anybody have any questions about how to use any of these products? Because once this goes on and it dries, and I apply my second coat, I am ready for paint. You are then able to start whatever kind of project you wish, because you have done the proper preparation to get your project ready for paint. The brush that I'm using today to apply my Dixie Belle Boss is a flat medium brush. It does not matter what brush you use to apply Boss. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. You could use a chip brush if you wanted. It just doesn't matter. I will tell you though, if I were to be putting on my slick stick, I would use a throwaway chip brush because that enables me to not bother cleaning it. I can just chuck it in the bin and move along with my day because you know, there's not enough hours in the day to be painting. I want to be cleaning too. So this is my flat medium brush, applying my Boss in white over top of whatever you want to protect for stain blocking primer ability. What kind of questions do I have? Am I missing anything on here? How do you decide to use clear or white Boss? Okay, so if I were using navy on this piece, I would use clear because it's going to be harder to cover white with navy. Anything that's lighter than say like a dusty blue, I'm gonna go white, okay? If it's darker than dusty blue, I'm gonna go clear. This just allows me to paint the surface. I think what's gonna happen on this piece is actually a farmhouse scene. I'm gonna be painting a barn and grass and clouds and all sorts of crazy things. So I'm just covering my bases because the clouds will be white and it'll just be easier to do the sky over top of over top of a white Boss. This brush is not damp. This brush is dry. You don't need to dampen your brush. You can if you want. Makes no difference. Normally you would dampen your brush when you're using paint to make sure that you're eliminating your brush strokes and your paint glows that little bit further. Erin's on there too. You're right. You would, if you were distressing, so if you're gonna do a farmhouse distress on here and you didn't want white to show through, you would have to use clear. That's one of those things that you need to make sure you're thinking about when you're prepping your piece. But I know that there will be no distressing on this piece. This is going to be a beautiful barn with a gorgeous sky, probably some cranky crows, and it's just gonna be fabulous. I've done that look many times before and I'm itching to paint it again. So when I have a nice flat surface like this, this is just like an open canvas for me to get crazy and paint and do wonderful, wonderful scenes on there. If you were to do something else, so say you painted this entirely in Boss and said, oh, I want to add wood U bends now. Go ahead. You can add wood U bends over top of this. If you wanted to, you can just directly paint this over top of your wood U bends. It makes no difference which order you go for wood U bend. My habit is just to always put it on first and then move along in my projects. So what about when you use slick sticks and you're painting your piece in a dark color? You had to put 3 coats on your piece. 3 coats of slick stick, if that's what you're asking. I normally don't use Boss and slick stick at the same time. It's one or the other. It's not recommended that you do both because number one, you're gonna get a lot of layers of stuff on there and it's gonna cause a problem. I don't strip the polyurethane off before I paint or Boss. All I did to this piece was give it a nice clean with my white lightning cleaner. We talked about this at the beginning of the video. And then I made sure that it was no veneer issues. Like if there's any loose veneer or chipping veneer, I will give it a light sand just to make sure that's coming off, but I didn't have to do that with this piece. And I missed a question. Yes, slick stick only comes in white, only comes in white. But no, the magic of a lot of these Dixie Belle paint products is that you don't have to, sand before you get in here and paint. I don't sand before I do my gel stain. I don't sand before I paint my items. The only reason I would ever really be sanding is to remove any loose veneer issues on my projects because you don't want any of that loose junk coming off when you've already applied your paint. So I'm just gonna go in here. I'll come in later when I'm off camera and go really carefully around the hinges. I actually haven't decided. I think I'm gonna be painting over top of the hinges, but it doesn't matter. I'll just do that part and be careful later. So when you're applying when you're applying your Boss, you're making sure to cover the entire area. Once it dries, you're gonna be able to come back in, apply your second coat, and then once that dries for about an hour, you are good to go and start painting. The white is going to take longer to dry than the clear. It just does. That's the way it goes. Let's see. You're going to paint ebony. Okay, so the only reason you would use slick stick, Mary, I see your question. The reason you would use slick stick is if your piece is so shiny that your paint is not going to stick. I normally don't use slick stick on wood unless it's a laminate wood, a plasticized wood, or a wood that's that very shiny Bombay style of finish. So unless it's plastic, Slick Stick really doesn't go on wood that much. It's just one of those things you're not going to use in that manner. If you're using Boss and you're going to be painting it ebony, like a nice dark black caviar, most likely you wouldn't even see your bleed through. If I was painting this pure black or pure navy, I probably wouldn't be priming it with any form of Boss, because the dark colors of paint don't really see that pull through of the stains. It's the whites, it's the lights, it's those, you know, lighter than dusty blue colors that those stains seem to pull through. All right. How to avoid the brush strokes? Do they disappear with the top coat? Are you speaking about brush strokes in general, or are you speaking about brush strokes with your with your Boss? There's a little bit of brush strokes here if you wanted to. I wonder if I have one on the floor with me over here. Give me a hot second, pull my tray over. So Dixie Belle sells these little finishing pads. They are foam on one side, and this one's actually pretty well loved. And like a memory board on the other side, like a very light grit sandpaper. You could take this once your Boss is dry and give it a once over to remove any of those extra brush strokes if you like. You can also do this in between coats of paint. You can also do this on top of your top coats and then apply another top coat. It's gonna help. If you have a small little sanding block like this, just to remove those brush strokes. But honestly, when you keep your brushes and you use these amazing synthetic brushes, the brush strokes are very, very minimized because of the construction of them. They don't have a lot of brush strokes on them. So there you go. So would you use Slick Stick to paint your plastic and glass television stand? Yes, you would. Yes, you would. I use Slick Stick on top of plasticized surfaces, anything that's laminate, anything that is shiny, really something that you think you can't paint. That's when you use Slick Stick. Everything else would get Boss. If it's a bleeder like this, if this orangey or red wood that you know those tannins are going to come through and cause a problem, that's when you're going to use your Boss. And that's up to you whether or not you use your clear or your white. But if you're painting light colors, this is going to make your job easier. If you're painting like a bright red, this is going to make your job easier because you're not using more paint to cover that dark surface, if it makes sense. All right. So I've used Slick Stick on top of those dressers and those pieces that are, it looks like wood. It's like fake wood. It's literally plastic wood on the top. A lot of the times those French provincial pieces that you get, those gorgeous scrolly French provincial pieces that you get, have that style of plasticized laminate on them. And using that Slick Stick on that plasticized surface, it's just going to make sure that your paint is going to stick. I've never had a problem. I am a big fan of proper prep and Slick Stick and Boss and all of the things. So there you go. This is what I wanted to learn. If I have a piece with paint peeling, do you have to sand? Yes. Yes, you do. Because if you don't, you know what's going to happen? All of those little paint flecks, everything is just going to come off, and your paint is not going to be a nice, smooth, even finish. If I have anything that has paint on it already that is chipping and flaking and coming off, it's either going to be removed entirely with a paint stripper, or I'm going to sand it down to the point where none of that paint is coming off. And then when that's done, if you still feel like your paint might not stick because you don't know the type of paint that was used on it, that's another case where I would use Slick Stick to make sure that my paint is going to adhere to the piece. But anything that's a bleeder like this, anything that had that really gross color, remember when I cleaned this with the White Lightning? These tannins, it's not dirt. I've cleaned this a couple times today. These tannins are what's coming through the piece. And this Boss is going to be your magical ticket to stop the bleed through from happening. Because you guys, it's going to happen. It's going to happen on these old, ugly yellow pieces. You can still see the color of wood here on the drawer that I haven't bossed yet. This ugly orange varnish wood, it's going to be a bleeder. I've learned from experience. So let's see. All right, well, I hope that helps all your questions today. I'm sure I missed some, but I can always come back in here and answer them afterwards. And then you can hopefully get the answers that you need. But let me give you a quick little recap, once again, starting from the beginning, so that you know all about your proper prep. I should probably leave these on so I see comments, right? old lady problems. So to begin with, when you get a piece of furniture home, you're going to inspect it. Make sure there's no structural damages. You're going to take off the hardware and you are going to clean it. And you're going to clean it very well. You're going to clean the inside of the drawers. You're going to clean the back of the piece. Flip it over. Check the bottom. The bottom of pieces are notorious for having, mold and stinky things on it. It is what it is. It's where the moisture sits, right? So you're going to use your white lightning dispersed into water. You're going to then clean your piece entirely with white lightning. After you've cleaned your piece with white lightning, you're going to want to rinse it off just to make sure you don't have any residual white lightning on your piece, okay? You want to make sure your piece is clean of everything. White lightning is wonderful because it is a deglosser as well, and it's going to take some of that shine off your project, all right? After your white lightning cleaner has been finished, you're going to go, okay, if I have to fill any holes, well, that's when I'm going to come in here with my mud. You're going to use your mud to come in and fill holes. So what the Dixie Belle mud is going to do is repair those holes. It's going to fill any veneer issues, any big scratches, any big gouges, anywhere where you feel that you need to get that wood corrected. That's when you're going to use your Dixie Belle mud. And FYI, remember, you're going to keep this in the fridge, okay? So keep this in the fridge and it will stay nice and fresh and you will have it forever and ever. It comes in black, white, and brown. So there you go. White lightning first, Dixie Belle mud. After your mud is finished, that's when you're going to decide, are you going to add any embellishments to your piece? Are you going to add anything to it like would you bend moldings? This is when I add my moldings on. You don't have to do it at this point. You could do it after you do your slick stick or your boss. You could even do your moldings after you finish painting if you felt like it. I've done that as well. Michelle's asking, let's see. Oh, I missed the question. Crystal said, does white lightning clean hardware? Yes, it does. I clean my hardware with white lightning as well. I actually clean everything with white lightning. It's becoming my staple cleaner. So first step, white lightning cleaner. Second step, Dixie Belle mud to fill any holes. Third step is when you're going to apply your moldings, if you're applying your would you bend moldings. And don't forget, 30 exclusive designs are coming to Dixie Belle very, very soon. Make sure you keep checking. Everything is going to be restocked and they're only available to your Dixie Belle retailers or the website, okay? So keep checking. Dixie Belle will sell these beautiful moldings that are bendable, stainable, drillable. I'm going to be putting holes right through there and adding new hardware to this piece. So after you have cleaned, mudded, and added your would you bend, you're going to then decide, is my piece plastic? Is it shiny? Is it metal? If it's plastic and shiny or metal, or you are worried about your paint sticking to your piece, that is when you're going to apply something called Slick Stick. Slick Stick is your bonder, your primer for glossy, hard, and shiny surfaces, okay? Only comes in white. You would apply this, wait 2 to 4 hours, apply another coat, then waiting 24 hours before you applied your paint. I did not need that today. So today, instead, we talked about Boss. Boss comes in 2 colors, white and clear. Well, what does Boss do? Boss is your problem solver. You can use Boss to eliminate odors, those smoky, stinky, rotten pieces that smell horrible. This is going to help you. I use Boss Clear on the inside of my drawers, on the backs of pieces, on the interior of pieces to help rid it of any smells that you don't want on your piece, okay? If you feel that your piece is going to have bleed through, like I knew this one was, because how many times did I clean it? And this grossness kept happening, I knew that I wanted to protect my paint from any bleed through. Bleed through are old stains and tannins that would come through the wood. If somebody took a Sharpie marker and drew all over this, that Sharpie marker is going to come through your paint. You don't want that to happen. So you have the choice of clear and or white for your surface. Today I chose white because I think this is going to be clouds and sky and beautiful things. And then this way I've protected for any of my light colors. When do you decipher if you want to use white or clear? Well, for me, anything darker than like a mid-range blue gets a Boss in clear. Anything lighter than a mid-range blue gets a Boss in white because it just makes your paint easier to apply. And if I wanted to sand back, you would see the color that's underneath, which for this piece would be white. So I hope that everybody learned something today. If you missed it, ask me, send me a message. I'm happy to help. And if I don't have the answer, I will find out who does and I will let you know the answer. But today was your proper prep 101, how to paint a piece, get a piece ready to paint with your Dixie Belle chalk mineral paint. So I'm sorry there was no painting today, but I felt like this prep work that needed to be done, and somebody out there probably needed to learn how to do it. I hope you learned something. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate it. Thank you, Janet. For all your shopping needs, I have included the link above my head, which will take you to find your local retailer, number one. If you do not have a local retailer, you can then order directly from Dixie Belle. All of these products, I believe, except for one of these bosses. I think this one was out of stock last week. But all of these products are in stock right now. And if they're not in stock, just hold tight. COVID is holding us back a little bit. We're a little bit behind when it comes to supply chain issues. So as soon as we get stuff, we are sending it out. Just keep checking that website. I know I'm waiting. I'm waiting patiently. I need new brushes. And so as soon as they hop up there on the Dixie Belle Paint page, I will be getting new brushes. The brush that I did use today to apply this was my flat medium. You do not have to worry. This washes out very easily from your synthetic brushes, and you can go from there. But what do you think? This is going to be cute now, right? I think the added little would you bend for the hardware, plus the fact that this is going to be a beautiful barnscape. I'm going to put a barn, clouds, skies, and all of the things. If you want to see me do that, I'll paint it live on my own page. I am Melissa from the Top Drawer RVA. I did link my page above my little head here in the blurb. You can probably see it right above my head. Come over and follow me. Say hi, and we'll finish this piece off together. I hope you learned something today. I enjoyed teaching you. Come back and see me next Wednesday, 3 p.m. EST. I am live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. as Dixie Belle's newest brand ambassador. All right? You have a wonderful day. Happy summer. Enjoy what's left of it. And I will see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.